or welcome back to Champion the Passion, a weekly pro wrestling podcast where we inspire you to champion your passions and celebrate the joy in what you love. I'm your host. My name is Victoria Daisy, and today we're going to be recapping everything that happened last night on Monday Night Raw. But before we dive deeper, don't forget to leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed. Follow me at It's Victoria Daisy across all social platforms, and follow Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms. But let's dive right in to the opening segment because, oh my gosh, we had Seth Rollins and his new faction. If you guys saw over the weekend on Saturday night's main event, we had an addition to their faction in Big Bronson Reed, the returning Tsunami King. He's back. And he's back and better than ever. And I cannot believe. So over the weekend, I actually was out of town. So that's why I wasn't making really any content in regards to any of the shows that were happening. But I did upload a interview with Izzy Moreno, which was so much fun. And I can't wait to be doing more interviews soon. And if you guys want to go check that out, it is the previous episode. So you guys got that fun special edition episode of Champion the Passion, The Untold Stories. But we are now back to regular scheduled programming with our show recap. So last night, oh my gosh, the fact that we got to open with Seth Rollins and the gang is what I'm going to call him. Literal gag. The second that his music hit, the second that they came out, I was stunned by the level of aura that they provided to me. I had chills down my spine. I can't even, I literally had goosebumps. Like, you know when The Rock, slaps his forearm? Actually, is that his forearm? I don't freaking know. Whatever. His arm, that's what I felt like. And let me just say, Seth has received so much hate over the last couple years that, you know what, he really deserves to lead his own faction. After all the hell that we've put him through over the last decade, the man deserves to lead his own faction. And you know what? He's finally getting his bloodline moment, and I love that for him. So Paul Heyman got on the mic to sort of introduce / hype up each member of this new faction. So Paul started talking first about Braun Breaker, the first member, unless you want to call Seth the first member of this faction. And he said that he sees him being a forever WrestleMania main eventer. He said that he's the Terminator and he's a destroyer. And then he talked about Big Bronson Reed and said that WWE has been scared of him, has been scared of booking him because he is, quote, a violent man in a PG era. I love that line. I think that is such a good line. Then after that, Paul started talking about Rollins and said that he is the most generous man on earth and that he is the future of this industry. Then Paul dropped a line that literally was like a mic drop, like low key. And it just had me once again, aura, stunned, gagged, literally could not even breathe. And I don't even think Seth knew he was going to say this because he kind of looked surprised and it popped him, which I thought was funny, and it popped me too. He said, quote, acknowledge Seth Rollins, obviously a jab at our tribal chief, which I thought was hysterical. Then the crowd was not giving Seth the time of day. And they gave him the Dom treatment, to be quite honest with you. So finally, Seth was able to speak because the crowd let him. And he said, quote, this is the vision. This is my vision. This is the way forward. And this is how we secure the future of this industry by power and dominance. And I just have to say, Seth amazes me every single time he comes out because he is truly one of the GOATs. I've said this so many times. You guys know I'm a 2000s baby, which means that in the 2010s, as I was growing up, he was one of the pillars of people I got to watch growing up. And so getting to see him finally having this payoff moment with doing what a vet does and leading the millions, if you will, to create and revolutionize this new era in the WWE, the golden era, if you will. He finally has his time to lead and to be a faction leader, which is something that he's always wanted, especially with all the trauma he has with the Shield. He finally gets his moment. So I'm very excited for him. And, you know, I just have to say, he knows how to freaking work the crowd left to right. I mean, he knows what to say, how to say it. He's the perfect heel, and I just love that so much about him. And overall, it was just an absolutely fantastic segment. I mean, it got me so hyped for the future of this faction. And, you know, I feel like after all of the bloodline stuff kind of ended, I mean, I was worried that we weren't going to have another interesting faction storyline, but here it is. I mean, the bloodline was something that ran so deep for about 6 years, and it just stopped. I mean, obviously, it kind of fizzles out in every little which way. And we still kind of have the remaining left, or the remaining people left of Solo and the Tongas, who are both injured. But we have, what is it, JC Mateo and Jacob Fatu. But it's just not the same anymore without Roman and the Usos and Sammy, right? So now that we have a big faction, kind of like an NXT, we needed to fill that gap of a big faction. And we have that with Dark State down in NXT. But up on the main roster, we have this new faction. And I just love it. And I also wonder if we'll ever get a name for this faction or not, because I don't really know what to call them. I kind of just call them Seth and the Gang or Seth's faction. I kind of hope they give them a name and give them a real brand and identity, but we shall see if that happens. But let's move on into the first match of the night. We had our 1 out of 2 men's Money in the Bank triple threat qualifier matches. Penta versus Chad Gable versus Dragon Lee. I mean, this was a really good match. I mean, I can't even lie. You guys know how much I love seeing Penta and Chad Gable in the ring, bringing it all the way back to January. Wow, I almost went through all the J months. I was like June, July, January 6th, 2025. The Raw on Netflix debut. We had Penta in his debut match against Chad Gable. We all know how much I love that. They had a rematch recently, and so to have them in this qualifier match was just so fun. And then adding in Dragon Lee to the mix was honestly magical. Like, it was so much fun. And, you know, there were so many fun spots in and outside of the ring and all around, just so much fun. I loved it. But in the end, Penta won and now has advanced to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match that will be taking place at Money in the Bank June 7th, a week from this Saturday. I can't believe we're already on to the next PLE, but this is how TKO likes to work. They like to give us PLEs every like 3 or 4 weeks. And you know what? I complained about it at first, but at this point I'm here for it because I'm excited for Money in the Bank. So it's fine. Okay, let's head into literal T Central. We're heading backstage for a Judgment Day segment. Now, if you guys have been keeping up with the Judgment Day the last couple of weeks, you know that there has been quite interesting things going on. So, you know, I was waiting all night for this segment. I can't even lie. Like, this was my most anticipated thing happening on Raw last night. I was just so excited. They had me on the edge of my seat. And again, this is T Central, okay? So everyone was in the clubhouse chilling. And then Roxanne Perez came and brought Dominic chicken nuggies or chicken tendies. Actually, they were nuggets. Those were not tendies. As a chicken nugget connoisseur, I know the difference. So that was not tendies, that was nuggies, but whatever. And she brought them to him on a silver platter, ironically. And she was being flirty, and then she arrived. One half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, the blonde beauty, Liv Morgan, returned. My queen, I love Liv. I was so excited to see her back. And she caught Dom red-handed. And then she said that Raquel has been keeping her up to date on everything going on in the clubhouse. So it's not like Liv is oblivious. This girl knows what's going down. And Dom seemed nervous, as if he got caught, which he did. I mean, this whole storyline is so juicy, and I truly am on the edge of my seat waiting to see what happens next week. I cannot wait. I think it is so good. I have a feeling, my dad brought this up to me earlier, and he was like, what if down the line Raquel ends up turning on Liv and teams with Roxanne, and then we kind of have that sort of feud going on? I think that would be so much fun. So I'm intrigued to see if that ever happens. But let's move on into the next match of the night. We had Rusev versus Akira Tazawa. Now, this match was a joke, right? Like, this was a joke. I mean, I don't know why I'm wasting an extra breath talking about this, so I'm just going to let you know who won and we're going to move on. Rusev won. That's all you need to know. I mean, usually I love a good David and Goliath matchup, but this was not even that. Like, this was just like, no, this was trash. I'm sorry. Next, we had not a trash match, but one I wasn't also super interested in, unfortunately. And that's just me being honest. I know a lot of people are like, you do social media and you talk about WWE, you have to like the product. You have to be happy 100% of the time and satisfied with the product 100% of the time, 24/7. And it's like, no, that's not the case. Like, I have people that I like and I have people that I don't like. And I'm never going to love the product 100% 24/7, if that makes sense. And that goes for any company, any sport, literally anything. And so there are going to be times where I don't like Raw that much. There's going to be times where I love it so much. And that it's going to change week to week, just depending on what the card looks like. And so, when it comes to Rusev and Akira Tozawa, and then now this match that I'm about to talk about, I mean, it's just like they fall on the lower, they just fall on my list. So this was a WWE World Tag Team Triple Threat tag match. That was a whole mouthful. New Day defending their titles against the War Raiders and American Made. Now, this was a bit of an interesting match, to be honest. I mean, slightly better than I anticipated. And I really liked some of the spots the War Raiders did, to be quite honest with you. I mean, they very much impressed me week after week. But in the end, the New Day retained. I mean, it wasn't anything out of this world, nothing I wasn't expecting. But the next thing that happened during the show was something I was very excited about on the flip side. Our world heavyweight champion, Jey Uso, came out in a segment to yeet and to kind of just like set the record straight. So Jey got in the mic, but shortly after he was even able to speak, his long-term rival, the ring general Gunther, came out. And of course, he loves to hear himself talk. So Gunther started off by congratulating Jey on a successful title defense against Logan Paul this past Saturday at Saturday night's main event. But then typical Gunther came out. He said that he's surprised Jey has held onto this title for as long as he had. As long as he has. Yeah, that makes more sense. He said that he's a great friend, but that's a good quality to have in life, but not necessarily a good quality to have as a champion. And Gunther kept crapping on Jey, but finally Jey clapped back. And I could not be more happy when that happened. He said that he has friends and they fight for him just like he fights for them. Then he said he's fighting for the support of the fans, and at Money in the Bank, he will make Gunther tap out for a second time. Now, I am so intrigued to see who ends up winning this rematch. Part of me is like, I mean, it's really hard with Jey because he's one of those people that we would have never expect to be champion ever. And so now that we're in this circumstance, it's like, okay, are you going to have Gunther lose to him again? But then it's also like, if Gunther wins the title back, it kind of just makes Jey's WrestleMania win fluky. And I don't want that. I want to believe that he is a sustainable threat, as a champion. And so I'm a little worried for this match. And I'm also worried about another match that I'll talk about later in the episode. But it's one of those moments where like you really have to play your cards correctly in order to not backfire, not just on the storyline, not just on the wrestlers, but on the fans as well. So very intrigued to see how that ends up playing out. The next match we had was Liv Morgan versus Kyrie Sane. Now, I thought this was a fantastic matchup. Lots of fun spots between the two. And then Roxanne Perez, just, my favorite person on the entire planet. I mean, gotta give it to her. Roxanne Perez came out, and I'm going to be honest, her intentions weren't 100% clear to me. If they were clear to you, let me know, but I couldn't tell if she was trying to help Liv or if she wasn't. I couldn't really tell because part of me felt like she was, and then things kind of backfired, and I was like, okay, well, I just couldn't tell. But Kyrie Sane ended up using that whole situation to her advantage to beat Liv while she was getting distracted by Raquel and Roxanne fighting on the outside. But to be completely honest, I mean, the ending of this match, besides the shenanigans, was very messy. And As a Liv Morgan diehard fan from the beginning, I'm talking her Jers days in NXT, if you guys go back that far. This loss broke my heart. Now, obviously, it's not like a make or break of her career, but it just really sucked because the ending of the match literally was so messy. If you guys go back and rewatch it, Kyrie slightly botched when she was doing that finishing move, and then she kind of pinned Liv for a little longer than she should have. Not after the bell rang, but before. That might have been a botch on the ref's part, but I'm not too sure. It just didn't look clean, and I wasn't a fan of it. All right, next let's talk about a Lyra Valkyria segment. Now, Lyra came out ready with fireballs for Becky. She said that she beat her fair and square twice and out wrestled her twice. Then she went on to say that Becky has done too many things to this point to now make this personal. And of course, say her name and she appears, not Joe Hendry, but Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch came out and interrupted. And when Becky came out, I was like, oh, hell yeah, let's freaking go. If you guys have been listening to the podcast for the last month, anytime they've had a segment, I just praise it because I think they are so freaking good on the mic together. It is amazing. So they went at it. I mean, they were cooking each other to ashes. It was crazy. They were getting personal with it. So Becky said that if she loses her rematch at Money in the Bank, she will never challenge for the Women's Intercontinental Championship ever again. But if she wins, Lyra has to raise her hand high. And, Lyra agreed to the terms and finished with this quote saying, I have no problem raising the hand of someone who's better than me, but that's something you wouldn't understand. Now, I love that line. I think that's a fantastic line. And I honestly loved this entire segment so much. Like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, I just think that they are so good on the mic. And I think they feed off of each other. Their chemistry is so well, not only in the ring, but on the mic as well. But my concern that I'm going to bring up with this match, similarly that I brought up to with the Jey Uso Gunther match, is who's gonna win when it comes to a stipulation, if you want to call it that, where if Becky loses, she's never going to challenge for it again, but if she wins, Lyra has to raise her hand high. When things like that happen, it usually indicates that the challenger, aka Becky in this situation, is going to win the title. And that really concerns me because I think Lyra has done so much with the Women's Intercontinental Championship, and they've done so right by her that I think it's so silly to just take it off of her and give it to Becky. Now, they could have a very similar situation to Tiffany and Charlotte, where, Charlotte was able to look like she was going to win it and then didn't end up winning it, and Tiffany just went over and just became a bigger star, that type of situation, which is kind of what we're seeing here. But I'm just a little worried because it's just like, I want Lyra to be solidified as, the first ever greatest Women's Intercontinental Champion. And if she could beat, her longtime idol and longtime rival, even her frenemy in Becky Lynch, a vet, one of the 4 horsewomen, one of the women who completely changed the game for every single woman in professional wrestling. She was a part of the women's revolution. And if she could do that, that would solidify her as not just her alone, but her as a champion. And I think that really needs to happen. And I don't think there's major loss that comes out of Becky losing, especially if she can never challenge for that title again. I don't think there's major loss coming out of that, but I am a little worried. They love putting the title on Becky. And so I really hope that that's not the case at Money in the Bank, but only time will tell. All right, let's head on into the main event. We had our second men's Money in the Bank triple threat qualifier match of the night. We had Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn. Now, this was a great match. Okay, it's always so fun seeing these vets that quite literally raised me wrestle each other all these years later. Not that they haven't wrestled each other over the years, but it's just, it hits different in a main event. You know what I mean? And I loved all the spots that they did in this match to make it what it was. I mean, not 1 second was I bored. It was so entertaining. Although there was shenanigans. Obviously, Seth's got a whole entourage and empire with him. And of course, they're going to follow like the little minions that they are. So Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker came out to help Seth distract the other opponents. But then Jey Uso and Dominic Mysterio came out to kind of fight them off. and distract the others. And it was honestly chaos, but in the best way possible. In the end, Seth Rollins won and advanced to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Again, June 7th, Money in the Bank. I believe it's Los Angeles at the Intuit Dome, which, fun fact, is where they did Raw's Netflix debut. So that's pretty fun. So he won in advance. I was pretty certain that he was going to win. I don't think there was a doubt in my mind about that, especially, you know, like how the last couple weeks have been for him. But then my king CM Punk came out from behind to attack Seth Rollins. And I just have to say, every time that static hits, every time I hear the beginning of Cult of Personality, I literally ascend to heaven. I don't know what to do with myself. Same thing with Rhea Ripley. I simply don't know how to act. I love those two so much. But when CM Punk comes out, I mean, he is just everything. So great ending to Raw. Such a fun show. And I loved that main event. But let's head into my overall thoughts. I thought it was a pretty solid Raw. Very fun. My match of the night was the main event triple threat qualifier for Money in the Bank between Seth, Sami, and Finn. Overall, like I said, super entertaining. Loved the spots, fun moments. It was great. My segment of the night, hands down, was Lyra and Becky. I mean, those two flamed each other to ashes once again. And I mean, every time they're in the same room, chaos is bound to happen. And I loved it. Overall, though, I'd rate the show about a 7 out of 10, maybe 7.5 if I'm feeling a little extra. But our next show to look forward to is June 7th, Money in the Bank. And I think that's going to be so much fun. We also have Worlds Collide, which is with AAA and WWE. I want to say I saw something that maybe TNA and NXT are included in that, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But thank you guys so much for watching and listening to this episode of Champion the Passion. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed. Follow me at It's Victoria Daisy across all social platforms and follow Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms. Don't forget to champion your passions and celebrate the joy in what you love. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.